to love, to cry, to care.
And to consume. That's right, AMC is adding even more commercials to the pre-movie lineup. But why question executives? Clearly being pelted with popcorn and soft drink ads only enhances the movie-going experience.
AMC Theaters. We make movies better.
From there, it's the remake of The War of the Worlds. Starring Ice Cube, the consensus among critics and viewers is that it's straight out of content. It debuted on Rotten Tomatoes at 0% and has been dubbed the worst film of 2025.
The surveillance industrial complex is collecting massive amounts of data with the Goliath program. Our most precious resource on Earth is data.
To add insult to injury, the movie's tagline is,
"It's worse than you think."
and it's showtime for the life of a showgirl.
This is my brand new album.
Taylor Swift made her first podcast appearance ever, dropping little nuggets from her romance with Travis Kelce to her love of baking bread.
It's a loaf story, baby, just say yeast.
Then Rambo meets the Phantom of the Opera. President Trump raised the curtain on this year's Kennedy Center honorees, heavy on camp, country, and clubbing. Topping the roster this year, the King of Country George Strait, Sylvester Stallone, and Gloria Gaynor.
I Will Survive is an unbelievable song, and it's one of those few that get better every time you hear it, and nobody can sing it like her.
The president also announced that he will be hosting the ceremony this year.
It's going to be a big evening. I've been asked to host. I said, I'm the president of the United States. Are you fools asking me to do that? Sir, you'll get much higher ratings.
Plus, move over Little Mermaid, Denmark's sexualized Big Mermaid statue is in hot water.
There is this so-called pornographic mermaid statue that is to be removed after it was deemed a man's hot dream of what a woman should look like due to its large breasts.
We take on that and more right now on our Arts and Culture Week in Review.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
And I'll never forget, I was a young guy, and I went to see a thing called Rambo, and it had just come out. I didn't know anything about it. And I said, this movie is phenomenal. What the heck?
Welcome to the Culture Show, live from the Boston Public Library. I'm Jared Bowen.
I'm Callie Crossley.
And I'm Edgar B. Herwick III.
We're going over the week's top arts and culture headlines, starting with an epidemic of advertisements. AMC Theaters, the nation's largest movie chain, has begun increasing the number of retail ads screened before movies begin. But fear not, the AMC ad featuring Nicole Kidman in a glittery, pinstriped power suit where she implores us all to celebrate the magic of movies, that's not going anywhere.
We come to this place to love, to cry, to care. That indescribable feeling when the lights begin to dim. Dazzling images on a huge silver screen. Beautiful music soaring through me. And we go somewhere we've never been before. That's magic. AMC Theaters. We make movies better.
Yeah, that's us adding more ads before the start of the Culture Show. So they are up to about 20 to 25 minutes of ads and trailers. Ads now being these retail commercials that you'll find before the movie trailers begin. And they're the holdout because just a few years ago, AMC was saying they were not going to go this route. They didn't want to pollute the movie-going experience, but they have relented, going the same way as Regal movie theaters and others. So now we're about 25 minutes of ads and trailers before you start the film. I know because here in Boston, it's mainly AMC theaters around me where I go, and so I time it so that I arrive while I can still see a few trailers, but they're now cheating the system, I feel like.
They're absolutely cheating the system, and I'm with you. You start timing it so that you have a little time to, stand in the popcorn line if it's too long or whatever.
In fairness, they are on the app. They are saying that, it will be they say this is the start time, but the movie's going to start 25 to 30 minutes after. So they are at least
okay.
So that you're only a tenth of the way through your popcorn bucket.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can, prepare to do it. I'm just saying that's what people are doing.
Yeah.
So the point of having more ads for the advertisers then is what? Though I am told that one of the reasons that advertisers particularly like movie advertising is that viewers are not distracted by other things. Like they have to focus on the screen because there's not, you're not over here picking up something off your floor if you're at home watching a movie or moving something around or whatever while you wait through the ads,
Yep.
And that could possibly be true, but not if I've timed it out and I come in right at the beginning.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think this is obviously a short-term fix, right? So you got to see this in the wider kind of context of the fact that the movie industry, and that includes the theaters and multiplexes, I mean, their future, to a certain extent, is in question, right? Like, the revenue is down. People are not going to the
Although
movies.
this year it's not. With Lilo and Stitch and How to Train Your Dragon, they're having a pretty good year, and this is the time they roll it out.
But I do think that, to your point, Callie, I think that this is going to be diminishing returns for the people who are paying for the advertising. Because even though you say, like, sure, it's not like on a television screen at home where you might be doing 10 other things. But I think most people, I mean, when I'm in the theater, at least at this point, in the beginning part, everybody's on their phone. Everybody's on their phone anyway. They're not really watching the screen because they know it's just rolling ads at them. If they see a trailer they like, they might look up for a bit. But until the movie starts, I think people are talking to each other. They're on their phones.
Well, the other trade-off here, and let's see if they go back on this too, but they say they're doing this so that they don't have to raise concession prices. Although how can on the popcorn bucket, your popcorn helmet or whatever we're buying now, it's already $75 or something like that, and they're not raising ticket prices either. So this is a way they claim to keep the prices down. But again, this is a moment where theaters have bounced back to some degree. This is what they're saying for the blockbusters, but I know every time I've been recently, I'm one of about maybe 12 people in a theater.
Well, there's that. Here's a way that it could work. But then it would take.
Lay it on
all
us.
right,
You've got the prescription.
It's going to take some data research, and actually, I don't know that the movie theaters come out better. And that is, if you do the research to find out what ads, even at home, I will stop and watch. I will watch the stupid progressive ads. I love that. I love them. I will watch the ad where the guy's trying to teach people not to be their parents. I will watch that. So if you figure out what ads that people are regularly paying attention to at home and put them in the theater, you might get me in. But I just have to know they're going to be there because I'll watch those over and over again.
What happened? What would you do? What would you do if it happened? Sort of if they went to a commercial break during the movie, it was an ad you liked?
No.
That's a hard no.
Because now the whole point. I want something different from what I can get at home. At this point, and they're crushing it in many ways. Certainly with the streaming. So I don't want to see any more of these ads everywhere, whatever, unless they were compelling.
By the way, that's how I realize I've become my father. You know, the moment where you realize you become your parents, when we're watching television together and an ad comes on and we're both laughing at the same time. And, we are the same person.
Is it the ad where they are warning you that you are becoming your parents?
Yes, I love that ad.
That's what
they're great.
No, the last one was the one
so
where she's got the self-start car so she can get out of her date early.
Oh,
that was the one.
That's a good one, too.
Yeah, it is. Well, enough. Even though movie theaters are heavily competing with streaming platforms, Amazon's reboot of The War of the Worlds is not a threat to the big screen. It recently debuted with a rare, wait for it, 0% rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
A well-earned 0%.
A well-earned. It's now hovering around 3%, and it's being hailed as the worst movie of 2025, if not the decade. Don't take our word for it. Here's a little bit from the trailer to War of the Worlds.
The surveillance industrial complex is collecting massive amounts of data with the Goliath program. Our most precious resource on Earth is data. And data is food for the superior intelligence.
What the? So, I mean, I can't even. So this is the worst assignment that I have ever had when we decided that we were going to talk about this on the show yesterday, and I watched I think I watched 25 minutes of this morning. I was so angry.
Wait, was it the first 25 minutes?
It was the first 25.
It doesn't really get bad until about
later.
45 minutes into it.
You didn't suffer.
I mean, this is one of those cases where a bad movie can be a good movie to watch. This is a bad movie, and it's a bad movie to watch. It's basically what would happen. So this is the War of the Worlds remake, where you have Ice Cube as this Homeland Security analyst who has access to all of this surveillance as weather is changing the world, and then Lego robots come involved somehow. I don't know. And Eva Longoria is running around on her phone. I don't understand. So this is basically what would happen if you gave a fourth grader. I thought maybe it's like a 11th grade homework assignment to learn how to edit a film. No, it's a fourth grader, maybe even a third grader. This is what they would come up with. It's awful.
It very much is. My favorite part about this film. So let's talk about a few things. One, and this actually makes sense to me. This was conceived during the COVID pandemic. So the idea that this whole, and started in production during COVID. The whole idea of this movie is the entire thing takes place on screens, right? So the actors aren't really ever interacting with each other. You know, Ice Cube, who's leading us through it, is sitting at his screen the whole time, and everything is happening either on Zoom or video or a phone call, whatever. The fact that this was at least launched during COVID, I went, oh, okay, I see why they were kind of pinned into trying to do this. And frankly, that as a construct is not what sinks this movie. Like, to me, it's the idea that as this wears on, the entirety of the world, like at one point, the news is telling us that the military can no longer, they can't contact their ships, so ships are just floating out at sea, and airplanes are falling out of the sky because all communications have gone down. And yet, Ice Cube's computer is still working, and he's communicating with his children on their cell phones. So the cell networks are working, and somehow television is still broadcasting the news in real time as this is happening. Meanwhile, all other communication in the world has somehow been disrupted. That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Also, with the exception of the Amazon zone drone deliveries.
Yes. That saves the day.
Because, wait, maybe it's a Prime movie?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. The Amazon promotion is over the top. So we hear it early on, and then it becomes even more embedded as the boyfriend who ends up doing a savior move is an Amazon driver, recently schooled in the newest technology of Amazon and their drones. Okay, here's a quote from the movie from him when he finally reaches his bleeding girlfriend who doesn't have enough rope to do a tourniquet on her knee when she's bleeding out. He takes packing tape from Amazon. He says, "Trust me, I'm a pro."
I know.
While he uses the packing tape.
And it's like it's one little 1 foot long of packing tape, and then he just stops her bleeding, and she's fine from there on out to help save the world.
How far did both of you make it into this?
I watched the whole thing.
I watched
the entire thing.
Well, I watched the whole thing.
You know, like
how are you not in the hospital right now?
Well, here's what happened, because what the AMC is trying to do, or the ads are trying to do, to keep my attention in the movies because there's no distractions. I have plenty of distractions. I'm cleaning out my purse. I'm looking around. I'm
got a lot done.
What the hell is this?
Well, no, but you bring up another point, which is, this is to a certain extent, this is the alternative, unfortunately, to ads before movies, is that the movies themselves are ads. I mean, that's what's happening here. I mean,
but it used to be subtle.
It used to be subtle, but I think increasingly we are going to see it being less and less subtle. When you have something like an Amazon who has a studio who's making a movie, they essentially made a giant commercial.
Okay, well then Amazon hire a writer or somebody so that they can make the thing.
Well, they did, and in fact, the writers involved in this have both independently been involved with somewhat decent movies in the past.
Well, were they drugged when they went on screen?
I mean, when they started. When you say writers plural, that's always an issue.
That is also an issue.
I thought they were actually early on in the film. I said, oh, maybe they're making a statement, because as you know now, we're in the middle of the dispute about whether NASA scientists have all the information they need. And early on, Eva Longaria's character says, all of the NASA satellites are blind. And I said, oh, well, maybe they're going into this to say what would happen if,
I'm getting all mad all over again. We can't even talk about this anymore.
Also that he has every bit of surveillance that you could possibly imagine at his fingertips.
Right.
But the bad guys in this are somebody who's making an even more onerous surveillance. I can't imagine what would have been more onerous than what he already had access
you know what?
to.
It's people like you who just drove the ratings on Rotten Tomatoes up to 3%.
Well,
no.
No, what I will say,
driving it down.
No, what's driving it up, and this is worth doing if people want to go down this rabbit hole, what's happening is clearly people are giving it 5-star reviews, and they are very, very funny. People like just over the top. Let me see, I have a quote from one. War of the Worlds is not just a movie. It's a cinematic earthquake that reshapes the entire landscape of film as we know it. I've seen great films before, but nothing prepared me for this raw, unstoppable brilliance.
All right, I have lost total control of this show and this conversation, so we're going to move on. No, Edgar, don't even take a breath.
More.
Now from a remake of a classic to what could have been a classic silent film, if only it had been finished. Queen Kelly, starring Gloria Swanson. Finally, the 1927 picture about an innocent convent girl who winds up running a brothel in Africa will have its world premiere. Now I think we know why it wasn't finished. As a complete film at the Venice Film Festival later this month. I think this is such a fascinating story, and it actually has a Boston connection because this film was made in 1927, as we mentioned. This was just at the end of silent films, and Gloria Swanson, who was a very big star, wanted another star vehicle. Her boyfriend at the time, one Joe Kennedy Sr.,
Yes.
who was heavy into Hollywood pictures, helped her to bankroll this. Then they get on set and with the director Erich von Stroheim and realize that he has a very different view of this picture. He is creating things that will never make it past the censors. He's very particular. One of his films had been 9 hours long, so he has a very singular artistic vision. So it ended until now.
It's so interesting to me that here's the other thing that should have said to Joseph P. Kennedy, who was, by all accounts, in other areas, very skilled in investing,
Yes.
that this was the start of the talkie revolution, and he's bankrolling a silent movie.
Yeah.
That seemed to be a bad move at the time, with your girlfriend.
Yeah, the things you do for love
Yes.
while you have your family
By
at
the way,
home.
with your
Right.
girlfriend, who apparently one of the reasons why they eventually split up after their 3-year romance was he was buying her all of these expensive gifts, but he was charging them to her account because she had put him in charge of her finances.
No.
So he would be like, here's this wonderful, beautiful thing. And she eventually realized he was using her money to buy her lavish gifts.
Oh, Joseph. Anyway, what I thought might add extra interest in this, other than the intrigue and the horrible plot and all of that, is that there seems to be more interest in Gloria Swanson, period, with the Broadway show that Nicole
Scherzinger's Sunset Boulevard.
Right, Sunset
Yeah.
Boulevard, and there was something else that came up recently. So there's a lot of interest in her.
Yeah, and there's sort of a fun fact here around Sunset Boulevard. Of course, Swanson ends up in the film Sunset Boulevard, and the only time, so this movie never got released,
Yes.
right? It never got released in America. There was like a version that they released in South America and Europe, but the only time American audiences saw any of the footage from this movie was actually in Sunset Boulevard, because when they show old footage of her character, they're actually using footage from this movie, and her butler and sort of former director was the director here. So there's like this amazing connection to Sunset Boulevard.
In fact, we can play a little bit of this. Here's Gloria Swanson reuniting almost inexplicably with the director who drove her to end this film from Sunset Boulevard.
What about the studio? What about DeMille?
He was trying to spare your feelings. The studio only wanted to rent your car.
Wanted what?
DeMille didn't have the heart to tell you. None of us has had the heart.
That's a lie. They want me. I get letters every day.
You tell her, Max. Come on, do her that favor. Tell her there isn't going to be any picture. There aren't any fan letters except the ones you write.
That isn't true. Max!
Madame is the greatest star of them all. I will take Mr. Gillis's bags to the car.
It's just so Hollywood and so delicious. And so basically, to close this loop, what has happened for the Venice Film Festival, which launches at the end of this month, is they've gone back and they've resurfaced material that has actually never surfaced publicly before to be able to finish. They went back to Stroheim's original manuscripts. They even gave a shout out to the JFK Library here, because of the Kennedy connection, that apparently they were able to assist in creating and finishing this film. So it's a variety of technology, original manuscripts, and again, footage that we've never seen before to be able to finish this.
And
so
I
it'll be fun
really
to
I
see.
want to say that they're positioning this as a reimagining of this film, which I think is the right way to position it. Right, they're not saying we've we've done it. They're presenting it in the context that it is. And I think you kind of hope there are other films like this out there. These sort of fabled films that never got finished. And with technology today, this is to me one of the good ways to use technology to be able to present these things. I think it's really cool.
And all of her films have been studied so long, so this just goes again in the pantheon of the movies that'll end up in cinema classes as well.
I am very excited to see this and to revisit Bring It On, because does Spirit Fingers mean anything to you? Bring It On, the cheerleading competition film, turns 25 this week. Here's a little bit from the 2000 classic Bring It On, in which the captain of a predominantly white high school cheer squad from San Diego, played by Kirsten Dunst, attempts to make amends with the captain of a predominantly black high school squad from Compton, played by Gabrielle Union.
We don't need you. Why do you have to be so mean? I'm just trying to do the right thing here. Look, I'm trying to be strong for my squad, okay? That's what a captain does. Well, I'm a captain too, you know. And I'm trying to make it right. You want to make it right? Then when you go to nationals, bring it. Don't slack off because you feel sorry for us. That way, when we beat you, we'll know it's because we're better. I'll bring it. Don't worry. I never do.
So Bring It On 25 years later. If you weren't here at the library or watching on our GBH News YouTube channel, Callie was mouthing every single bit of dialogue here.
All the dialogue.
You're a big fan of this film, especially on the anniversary.
I do. I love it. I've seen it about 1 billion times. The black East Compton Clovers versus the white Rancho Carnes Toros. It's really quite something. And because the film was so far ahead of its time in a teen movie to discuss something as intense and important as cultural appropriation.
Yeah.
Because the storyline is the new white captain realizes that all these years that they've been winning at nationals is because they ripped off the cheers from the black cheerleaders. And when she finds that out, she's like, okay, we're going to do it on our own. And, I'm going to acknowledge it to this black woman who's head of the team. We're equals. And that's where the Bring It scene came from. So it was fascinating on that. It had all the other teen things, a little romance, this and that and whatever. And, mean-spirited girls, blah, blah, blah. But the action itself, the cheerleading, the sportsmanship of it, it is really good. And Gabrielle Union was fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you point out it being ahead of its time in that. I think there's something remarkable in this movie. So I watched it again this week. Really stood out to me. In addition to what you're talking about, they have this moment where they take a beat in the movie that they don't necessarily need to, which I think is very attuned, which is, at one point, the Compton school, they're not going to be able to afford to go to nationals, right? So, like would play out in many other movies, the white cheerleader gets her dad to write a check, and she brings it over to them and offers it to them. And rather than going with that, the sort of classic white savior narrative, the girls rip it up, and they take it on their own shoulders. They write to this sort of Oprah-like character who's a black TV show host who then finances them going there. It's a little 45 seconds, 2 minutes in the movie that didn't need to be there that makes a big difference. And I think it also shows something being very aware and ahead of its time.
It does. And then their respect for each other by the time the end of the movie is very important.
Respect and not friendship.
Yes.
So like, you buy it, right?
Right.
It's not like they all become best friends,
That's
but
exactly
they do
right.
respect each other at the end.
Well, I think it's also interesting. The writer has been talking about this and saying it wasn't an accident that she was dealing with cultural appropriation, because this is something that she had experienced in her circle and with her parents and how they had introduced her to this. But so she introduced it in her film, and it didn't get picked up in the mainstream until much, much later. Well, coming up, the October surprise. Taylor Swift has announced that her latest album, The Life of a Showgirl, will drop this fall. That's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And the MBTA commuter rail, helping riders skip the stress of city traffic and parking. Just take the train. You can plan your trip at mbta.com/massbytrain. And MIT Sloan Executive Education, helping professionals empower their careers and explore over 90 courses blending cutting-edge research with real-world application. More at executive.mit.edu. And the Cape Playhouse in Dennis Village. Now playing Come From Away, the hit Broadway musical that is a celebration of the best of humankind. Tickets at capeplayhouse.com.
I'm Callie Crossley. All too often, a lot of very important news flies under the radar. Learn about the small stories before they become big headlines on my podcast, Under the Radar with Callie Crossley, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to The Culture Show. I'm Jared Bowen, live from our GBH studio at the Boston Public Library. I'm joined by co-hosts Callie Crossley and Edgar B. Horwick III. If you're just tuning in, it's our Arts and Culture Week in Review, which includes Taylor Swift entering a new era. This week she announced her forthcoming album, The Life of a Showgirl, will drop on October 3rd. That's not the only news. The fact that she shared the news on the podcast New Heights, co-hosted by her boyfriend Travis Kelce and his brother Jason, has the internet convulsing. The stream crashed, and already countless analyses of the episode have been published, including Vogue magazine's article 66 Takeaways from Taylor Swift's appearance on New Heights. I'm sure there's some numerology in there that we're all supposed to be familiar with, that everybody's trying to cash in on in this moment. But yeah, so we learned that when she was out on tour, she wasn't taking her days off, that she was out there creating music. Thus, we have the showgirl of the title and what life is like to be on the road.
I thought it was interesting that Travis said people don't understand the hard work that she puts in on the stage, and it really is athleticism.
Yeah.
And that, and she weighed in and said, yeah, some of the aches and pains and all that are very similar to what you go through on
Yeah, they
the
talked about sort
field.
of like post-game, how what they have to do
Exactly.
post-game to keep their body from breaking down and how
Which
similar
I thought
it is.
was
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah, it's definitely cool.
It was really interesting. It was interesting to watch the two of them together, and the older brother sort of interjecting there. Hey,
the older brother's the best person in this group. I love Jason Kelce.
Okay,
I'm a
all
Philadelphia Eagles fan. He's a Philadelphia Eagles guy.
I didn't know any of them before Taylor.
You want to see something I guarantee you want to see something entertaining. Watch when the Eagles won the Super Bowl a few years ago, not this most recent one. They're second in so many years. Jason Kelce dresses up like a mummer, which is a Philadelphia thing, and like gives the craziest speech you have ever seen in front of the museum steps at the end of that parade. It is well worth watching. More entertaining than anything you're going to see on New Heights.
Well, all I can say is one of the things I found also charming is that she fully admitted she had no idea what in the hell Travis Kelce did, had no idea about the game, and she had to learn about it and is still learning and blah, blah, blah. She recognizes there are the haters, whatever. It's interesting.
And we also learned more about how their romance came together. Here's a little bit from the appearance on this week's episode of New Heights, hosted by Travis Kelce and his brother Jason. Here she is describing the shooting your shot, as it's heard around the world, when Travis made her friendship bracelets in a ploy. Who knew he did that? Maybe people did. I didn't. In a ploy to meet the pop star back in 2023.
This podcast has done a lot for me. I owe a lot to this podcast. This podcast got me a boyfriend ever since Travis decided to use it as his personal dating app about 2 years ago. So
worked pretty good.
Yeah. Hey.
It was such a wild romantic gesture to just be like, I want to date you.
Well, that's one description for it. So the metrics as of this morning, 379 million Instagram views, 34 million views on TikTok, and 15 million views on YouTube. It's the most live listeners to a podcast ever.
Yeah, we are approaching the entertainment singularity where football and Taylor Swift come together in one giant thing that nobody can peel their eyeballs from.
Right. It's extraordinary to watch this business plan in play. She is somebody who last year had 6%, what was it? I think 6% of all album sales, something to that effect, and she has had 26.6 billion streams on Spotify for the last album, and then she listened to what her fans said about the last album, which had 31 tracks. This has been reduced to 12. It's going to be more upbeat, although there sounds like there's some little poking toxic song here and ruin the friendship. I mean, even I'm now intrigued when we're decoding this, but this is just brilliance in action. Obviously, I'm sure the Harvard Business School probably is teaching some of these mechanisms.
You're
there
totally
are
right.
Taylor Swift classes actually around the country.
Well,
so-
we've had the
Yeah.
lecturer on about the language,
Yes.
but from a business standpoint.
Yes.
No, that's what I find most fascinating about this too, though, Jared. This idea of like we are watching this master class and how to basically like maintain a cultural empire in 2025. It is astounding,
It
like
is.
what she has been able to do, what she is able to continue to do. I mean, to me, the thing that's really incredible about it is the maintenance aspect. It's one thing to get big.
Yeah,
It's
to
another
stay
thing
big.
to stay big, and especially in the way she does it, which one of the things that's most important to her brand and does seem to still come across is a certain amount of authenticity in this
Yeah.
space, which you have to imagine when you are as rich and popular and known as she is. Must be really difficult to do, and yet somehow she continues to find a way to thread that needle. It is kind of astounding.
Well, I've said before, the last time she was in town, when she was touring the United States, I just remember thinking, wow, she stopped Massachusetts that day.
Yeah.
She had trains running for her. The economy shifted that day for all the sales. So many people were going there. It dominated media coverage. And then about a week or two later, I was in Minnesota. And in Minneapolis, she stopped Minnesota. And I thought, oh, how did that never occur to me? Of course we're not singular. She stops the world wherever she is. It's fascinating.
She's Beatlemania in 1964, right?
Well, part of
that's
that
what's happening.
authenticity, as you said, is telling her own story. And I thought the big part of the podcast when she got very emotional, talking about how emotional she got in buying her own music about and what that meant to her, and taking the risk to redo her original songs when everybody said that is not going to work, and yet it worked. And so at one point, the older brother, what's his name? Jason said, okay, well, what do people listen to? And she said, whichever one you like. There's different things. And I thought, oh, okay, double sales.
Yeah.
It's like when
Very smart.
Well, to Washington now, where the Trump administration sent a letter to the Smithsonian Institution this week requesting a, quote, comprehensive internal review of 8 of its museums with the aim of bringing the organization in line with the president's cultural directives. Here is what the president had to say when asked about his administration's decision to review the content of Smithsonian exhibitions.
Well, we want the museums to treat our country fairly. We want the museums to talk about the history of our country in a fair manner, not in a woke manner or in a racist manner, which is what many of them, not all of them, but many of them are doing. Our museums have an obligation to represent what happened in our country over the years, good and bad, but what happened over the years in an accurate way.
And that's not completely an accurate statement, because this is the president trying to define exactly what history is, all under this banner of Americanism. And if there is race involved, if there is an interrogation of history involved, the administration has already clearly signaled they do not want that represented. So here you have the major museums of the Smithsonian Institution now facing this scrutiny by the administration, and what is going to come out of this? Who is going to be forcibly removed? What is going to be forcibly removed? And how are artists going to be deleted from the picture?
Well, a couple of things that have caught my attention in the last few months under this edict. One is that there was a rapid rumor, and one that they're still trying to reverse for the National Museum of African American History and Culture, that they had removed the lunch counters representing the civil rights movement's effort to desegregate lunch counters in the museum. It's a incredible actual lunch counter from Greensboro with a stool, and that had been removed. And the museum has spent ages saying, no, it's not gone. But people are worried that it will be gone because, of course, in his definition of it, that's not a good history to know about. But, of course, it's our history. You don't put a value on good or bad. That's the history of it. So that concerns me. The other thing that I think is interesting, and maybe it'd be something to take a note of at the other museums, is that there are droves of people running to the museum now to try to see it, see the exhibitions as they are for real, concerned that they're about to be, all the stuff that's tough or considered tough by people massaged away or removed.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously troubling, and to me, it is yet another sort of attack on expertise, broadly speaking. There are people who are historians are a thing. They go to school. They're trained in how to do it. They are well read in their subject. And there are people who know more about this than the president of the United States or any other kind of person. So I mean, to me, it's the entitlement bit where it is one thing if you're the president of the United States, you are sort of clothed in certain power. You have been elected by the people in this country to do a job. But what I see here is mission creep in what that job is. That job is not necessarily to go to a series of museums and say, I want you to remake yourself in my vision and my image. When we elect a president, we're not electing them to do that.
At least we're not in this democratic, what's supposed to be a democratic nation. But what we know is under authoritarianism, that's the first thing you do is remake the history and remake the story.
Well, and this is what the greatest encyclopedic museums, like many of the Smithsonian museums, will do, is offer all of the viewpoints. And they may be contradictory, but these are artist viewpoints throughout history. Speaking of history, shall we just think about 1937 for a moment? In 1937, there was the Great German Art Exhibition, and these were following. This was an exhibition that followed the values of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party. There were statuesque blonde nudes. There were idealized soldiers. There were landscapes that were idyllic for Germanic expression. So this sounds somewhat akin to this new definition of Americanism. Down the road was the Degenerate Art Exhibition, where the administration hung in a very scattershot manner, kind of almost filled with graffiti to further malign these artists. All the artists they didn't think applied to the strict rigor of Germanic values. What we're seeing unfold right now sounds very similar to 1937, where you have one leader who is trying to dictate what the entire scope of the nation and how it should be represented in art. And it's very chilling. And if we think it's going to stop with the Smithsonian, I think that we are vastly underestimating what is happening here.
And then the next step is now this version is taught in schools, and now and you end up one hopes at some point with some kind of I'm doing small R revolution where people actually say, actually that's not the history, here it is, and you have to go through everything that we've already gone through to put back in place what is the actual events of the day and of the past, and it's really scary.
Well, and also, how far does it go? Just the other day on the show, we were talking about John Singleton Copley's Watson and the Shark, which he revised. John Singleton Copley did in the 1700s, revised to include a black man in this triangular form of this picture, himself creating representation in this time. John Singer Sargent happened to be the same curator, Erica Hirschler at the Museum of Fine Arts. He, as she titled it in a section of her exhibition on John Singer Sargent, was Sporting with Gender, representing people who were dressing not in the sexual norms of the day or the gender norms of the day as would commonly be accepted. How about the indigenous artists who are represented in museums who are articulating in their time what they were experiencing when there was this clash of cultures? How far is this going to go? Are we going to, I mean, they position this often as this is just about the contemporary artists, but again, it doesn't necessarily end there.
And I think you make a really good point when you use the word contradictory, right? When we're talking about you're talking about history. There is no one clean history or narrative in how things happened. People experience the same event differently based on who they are and what their role in that event is. And the job of these museums, to Jared's point, these big encyclopedic museums, is to do the best they can to provide as many of those stories as they possibly can, and they will be contradictory, and it's not a math equation. There's no one right answer here.
Well, y'all may remember the controversy of the 9/11 museum when at the last room was information about the hijackers and where they came from and all this kind of contextual information, and a lot of people did not want it in there, and they had to fight to say, this is part of the story.
It's important.
You can't not have
the uncomfortable parts need to be included.
Right.
And speaking of which, just a coda to what we talked about last week, which was that the Smithsonian had removed text language from an exhibition about the American presidency that referred to the 2 impeachments of Donald Trump. Those were restored this week. Some people say the language was sanitized or softened. I'm not sure that that's necessarily the case because it still does direct people to what happened. So we should point that out because the Smithsonian has also, in response to this latest edict from the White House, said that they are going to work in the most constructive way forward. So it sounds like battles ahead. We will certainly continue to follow it as we move on to another story in Washington right now. Well, in another presidential first this week, Trump announced this year's Kennedy Center honorees, including George Strait, as you hear here. Trump said he was very involved in the process, which also resulted in honors for actor Sylvester Stallone, Broadway star Michael Crawford, disco diva Gloria Gaynor, and the band Kiss. Oh, and the president decided he will host the ceremony
No.
himself.
He didn't decide that. They asked him to, and he said, no. And then they said, no, but please. And he said, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah, so he acquiesced, decide however you want to have it. So I have to say, this one I don't have as much of an issue with. There seems to be a lot of outcry about this. I think, with the exception of Michael Crawford, who's really only known for his Phantom of the Opera performance, you might see any one of these nominees surface in any other year. I think normally the Kennedy Centers are a little bit more holistic, so that you'll find all manner of arts and musicians, whereas this seems relegated to pop culture from the 70s and 80s. But again, all I think are deserving here.
I would only note that for many of them, it's not clear that all of them pretty much support and espouse his views, and that's what makes me nervous. I agree with you about the talent of the people represented. You know, I'm sure George Strait at some point, for example, that's one of the
George
people.
Strait's great.
I
Yeah,
know,
he's great.
but he's one of his biggest supporters. But
Yes.
I'm saying,
No,
at some
He
point,
actually hasn't been very political, which I find interesting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I think Sylvester Stallone has been pretty
but
vocally
again, these are
supportive.
people who would probably get an invite. I just worry about that baseline of if they feel like you're in the club, then there's more interest. Now, we did hear that Tom Cruise was invited and said no.
Scheduling conflicts.
Well, yeah. Okay.
Well, I'm just saying that's what he said.
I had to wash my hair too a few times.
But
in life.
here again, I'm with you, Jared. I think all deserving, artists here who in any other time may have ended up here. To me, if there's anything troubling in this, it is, again, it's the manner in which it was done, right? So Trump has said that he was about 98% involved in selecting. They did not go through the process, which normally happens. Again, it's normally there's a group of people with input from other people who come up with a list, and like all of that was abandoned, it seems, for one man, the man who was elected, for one man choosing what he wants for this. So, again, that's the part of this that is troubling for me. It's that CEO who you're just like, do whatever the CEO wants. We need to do and I just that's not my style.
Well, I think to your point, Kelly, I think the interesting one to watch will be Kiss, because there seems to be a division in that band, because Gene Simmons was once a supporter of Donald Trump, but has been very vocal about his criticism of Trump and the administration since the first administration. Paul Stanley, another bandmate, on the other hand, has been firmly in the Trump camp. I have to think if the band collectively agrees that they're going to be honored, because they all got that phone call that Tom Cruise cited scheduling or washing his hair, as you say, that they want to receive the honor unless Gene Simmons has something up his sleeve. And by the way, this is all going to happen on December 7th, and then will later be broadcast on CBS, which we know is the network that has capitulated to a number of the Trump demands. Well, coming up, stop sweating the small stuff thanks to the small fan. Callie Crossley is keeping us cool in every sense of the word. That's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
Vinyl records might be technologically antiquated, but hardcore collectors are just as obsessed as ever with crate digging.
We have all sorts of people coming in. We've got long-time collectors, first-time diggers, DJs, musicians, even curious passerbys.
Our conversation with the co-founder of a thriving record shop in Dubai. That story next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And the Museum of Printing in Haverhill, preserving the history of graphic communication from typewriters and presses to computers and copiers. Their expanded exhibit of rare and historic Bibles is now on view. More at museumofprinting.org. And the Office of the Massachusetts State Treasurer, the Unclaimed Property Division, is holding unclaimed funds from utility bills, uncashed paychecks, savings accounts, and more. To see if you have unclaimed money, you can visit findmassmoney.gov. And the Massachusetts Educational Financing Authority, helping families overcome the college planning stress. Committed to providing trusted guidance with calculators, step-by-step videos, and more. Details at mefa.org.
GBH Daily is a newsletter that keeps you informed, connected, and ready to go every weekday morning. You can subscribe today and get it in your inbox at gbh.org/daily.
I'm Jared Bowen. If you're just tuning in, it's our Arts and Culture Week in Review. I'm joined by co-host Callie Crossley and Edgar B. Herwick III. We're going over the latest headlines, including how a hot summer trend is giving new meaning to fan favorites. So, Callie, if I'm to lift the Jim Browdy fan from underneath the desk here, and you're watching on our GBH News YouTube channel, is this what we're talking about, or is this something different?
No, go. If you're watching on YouTube, go look at the picture that we have for you. It's a little small fan that you've seen a lot of people carrying around. This version, and there are other versions of it. I actually have one and left it at home. That was really...
You only have one?
No. I only have one, actually.
Did you want to borrow mine for a second?
No, yours is a little too big. Here's the thing. It's they're expecting the sales of these fans to go to $1 billion by 2023, nearly doubling, and it's because of climate change and fashion. So the fashion piece is there's a couple of Chinese-affiliated retailers, Shine and Temu, and they sell them for about $4. Obviously, the climate change thing is that these increasingly hot temperatures, both in Europe and Asia, and then now in the U.S., have driven people to need something to carry around with them, and they're effective.
Wait, are they though?
They are.
They are.
Because
fans just blowing hot air around?
No,
really,
as
right?
someone explained in the story, the paper fan kind of gives you the hot air, but you get a little, and some of them have a little spritzer on them. You can have to put a little spritz on it and say.
I mean, I'm freezing right now with my fan.
There is. I mean, listen. You want to buy these fans, great.
Yes.
And I'm certainly not a person who is going to knock people for their own personal behavior and their contribution to climate change. But there is a certain irony in the fact that climate change is making us have to buy these fans. So what does it cost to manufacture and then ship one of these fans that you buy for $4?
Well, the other part of that is that, will they end up in landfills? Because
this is what I'm saying. Yes. So it's plastics.
Yes.
And it's the energy to manufacture them and ship them. It's probably a net bad for the environment.
Yes.
I would just say.
Do you guys remember the Harriet Carter catalog? That used to be shipped that would have all these quirky things.
Yeah.
Like you put
1,000 years ago.
Yeah. This reminds me of something you would get out of the Harriet Carter catalog.
Yeah,
or I guess
okay.
maybe a little bit, it's a little higher end, but the Vermont country store is
Yes.
the equivalent
Yeah.
where there's something for everything and everyone.
I love a catalog. Don't get me wrong, I love a catalog.
Me
like
too.
that, too.
And this has come out, we should say that its origins appear to be in Asia, where this has been going on for a long time. These small fans, which I think are interesting. And they're under $10, so... And they're portable.
Is yours? Do you plug yours in to charge it, or is it batteries?
Charge it, plug it in. Yeah, and you can. I've seen some that you can, do the whole plug it into the wall or whatever. So they have various iterations of it. There's a young woman, and let me get her name, Remy Bader, who came up with one that's probably perfect for Gen Z. She has one that attaches to your phone.
Oh,
so
there you go.
Then you can you're holding your phone the whole time. And
when you do your selfies, you've got the kind of like
the light comes
the
with
hair
it.
going.
Actually,
the light comes with it. Yeah,
there's a light that comes with it. Very smart.
You can attach it to your purse right next to your Labubu.
Well, there you go.
If you still have one, that is. I mean, barely a week goes by without us being able to talk about the Labubus. And this week we're talking about Labubus because a bunch of Labubus to the tune of $30,000 were stolen out of a Los Angeles warehouse.
Yeah.
This is how popular these things have become, which I think is hilarious because in about, 18 months, they're going to be worth $4.50.
Probably. You're probably right. I think it's interesting that the $30,000 worth of Labubus equated to 14 boxes.
Yeah.
So it lets you know how expensive this stuff is.
Well, I mean, I tell you what, rather than War of the Worlds, I would watch the movie of these two teenagers who stole $30,000 worth of Labubus and then got caught. That would be a better
Well,
caper
in my
movie.
version of the movie, they steal the Labubus, which then eat their face off in the middle of the night, because these things are horrible.
No,
they
they're
are.
terrifying.
They're not very. Yeah.
Somebody needs to invent the little miniature fan for the Labubu. So now the
then you can
Labubu
attach
could have their
everything.
little miniature fan, and you have your miniature fan and your Labubu.
And here's a little helpful tip for you. Apparently, 1 in 3 millennials has considered taking out insurance on their Labubus.
Well,
so
that
they're
probably makes
to the
sense
tune of
now.
about $30 just for your Labubu that's going to be worth $4.50 in a couple of years. But this is how terrified people are about their Labubus being
Because
stolen.
they're expensive. Well, I will say that this was $30,000 worth of stolen goods, and I guess last week $7,000 from a Los Angeles store. That's
Well,
pretty big.
Lock your Labubus up. Lock them up.
Well, speaking of things that look strange, in Copenhagen, a mermaid sculpture is making waves for, busting out all over and offending the Danish sensibility. So if you're here at the library watching on our monitors, or if you're streaming on our GBH News YouTube channel, here is I know it's impolite to give a woman's figures, but she's 14 tons, 13 feet tall, and people find her... Well,
Some people.
Some people find her pornographic, I think, because of her size and maybe the thrusting outness of her.
That would be her
thrusting
breasts,
outness.
Jared is referring
The
to.
thrusting outness, yes.
But she is in proportion, as one of the artists said. People are focusing on her breasts, which a lot of women activists and artists have said, what's up with that? Stop it. It's, again, objectifying women. And she's proportionally correct. This is the big mermaid, but there's a little mermaid, and they decided to make a big mermaid because people said the little mermaid was too little.
Yeah.
And then all of this.
And then Goldilocks made one that was just right.
Well, she had to be moved away from The Little Mermaid in 2018 because they didn't like that pairing.
And I guess it's the move where it was moved to. I don't want to use the word pretext because that's sort of saying that there's pretext here, but that is the reasoning now behind. So they're going to get rid of this because where they moved it to is a protected area and they didn't get the correct permit, so they're saying you got to take it down from there. I don't know. It's a mermaid.
I know. What do you expect from a mermaid?
It's a big mermaid statue.
Well, I mean, it is all about the positioning and the figure, because you're thinking, of course, there are any number of women who are bare-breasted depicted in statues in museums and parks all over the world, but there is something a little suggestive about her.
That's what people say about the statue of David, too. Come on.
Well, there is something suggestive about that statue.
I do not disagree.
I think I'm saying I'm okay with a little suggestiveness in our statues, generally speaking.
I'm saying it's art. Move on.
Well, she's not badly rendered. It's not like the Tom Brady painting that needed to be burned in the pits of hell.
Now, the entrepreneur who commissioned this work is a man. Is anybody surprised by that?
No.
Yeah.
No, we're not.
Okay, well, we are trying to...
No. Yeah, it's just music to my ears.
We're trying to dial up our lightning bolt sound effect for our lightning round, but the internet is so slow. So, Edgar, while we wait, what is the story that struck you this week?
Well, the story that struck me this week is AOL, that famed sound, which I think a lot of us probably remember, that dial-up is going away. AOL dial-up is no more. It is finally ending, and it's just, I think, a moment to reflect on it. One thing that does strike me about this, so at its peak in the late 90s, early 2000s, the AOL was, they were a behemoth, right? They were, and so much so that they bought Time Warner, right? It was like a huge deal at the time. They had over 23 million subscribers in the U.S., which sounds so quaint now. That number, to be that dominant, it was only 23 million. When you think about the numbers that tech companies are living in now in terms of iPhone sales or the number of people on Facebook, are in the billions. So the idea that this tech world so quickly has gone from you can dominate with 23 million subscribers to if you have less than a couple billion, you're never really going to make a dollar, just tells us how fast this world has changed. It's wild.
It is wild.
Yeah.
It's a big scene in the Proposal movie, if anybody cares to look at it.
And there's You've Got Mail, the whole movie You've Got Mail, which is, a commercial for AOL with the You've Got Mail.
Also antiquated. The locally shot proposal, by the way.
That's true. That's
so,
right.
Callie, what's your lightning round headline this week?
Well, Danielle Spencer, whom some people, the name may not register, but she played Dee Thomas on the comedy What's Happening, which ran on ABC from 1976 to 1979. It was one of the first American television shows to center on the experiences of black teenagers. It was inspired by the 1975 film Cooley High. Dee Thomas was the quintessential nagging little sister to the main character Raj, but what made her so great is that she was like an old soul in this young body, and the one-liners that they would give her, she delivered so well. She had a signature line, which was, "Ooh, I'm gonna tell Mama." That was her signature. But then throughout the other episodes, she'd have these stingers.
Yeah.
As I was saying earlier to you guys, it reminded me of the kind of one-liner prowess that the Dowager played on Downton Abbey, Maggie Smith. And she was just great. She went on to become a veterinarian, very successful one, got her doctorate, played in all of the episodes of What's Happening and the reboot, and just died tragically at 60 of cancer. So it's just really, people are sad about it. And here's a great thing. In 2016, she was inducted into the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture. For now. But it said at the time when she was inducted, this will be here long after I'm gone. I'm so honored to be honored in this way. So, sad.
Speaking of honorees, we have to congratulate you too, Callie,
Yes,
for your
Callie.
induction into the NABJ Hall of Fame.
Hall of Famer Callie Crossley.
Thank you very much.
Callie.
That's the
Very
National
big deal.
Association of Black Journalists, and I had an opportunity to give honor to the people who came before and who helped me along the way, because that was a big old mess at the beginning. The people of Memphis, Tennessee, where I had my first job, I salute you, because I'm sure at the end of all my reports, they were like, "What'd she say? What's she talking about?" So anyway.
Well, we were so proud and happy for you. And I'll be quick about my lightning round, which is 11 Madison Park, this big, very, very well-regarded restaurant in New York. It has 3 Michelin stars. About 4 years ago, it announced that it is going to remove meat from the menu. It would be an all-vegan restaurant. And this had a lot of people wondering what this could mean for a really high-end restaurant that charges more than $300 for a pre-fee meal. Some people didn't want to pay hundreds of dollars for only vegetables. Well, 4 years later, didn't quite work out. So they're saying as an act of hospitality and for financial reasons, meat is returning to the menu because wine sales have been down, group bookings are down, and so it's all coming back. So it was an interesting experiment that didn't quite work in the high-end restaurant world.
But it influenced other restaurants.
It did. So some are still doing it. That's true. That's all for this edition of The Culture Show. You can tune in Monday for writer Imani Perry talks about in her new book, Black and Blues, how a color tells the story of my people. Callie, what's coming up under the radar?
We're doing a whole hour on food waste and the fact that Massachusetts is a leader in figuring out how to reduce the hunger by reducing the amount of food waste, and other states are adopting our policies. So it's really very interesting. We also have some low waste chefs. They'll tell you how to, all that stuff that you thought you couldn't make into anything, the scraps, the seeds, they're making into delicious dishes. So it's wonderful.
Nice.
Yeah.
Edgar on the Curiosity Desk.
So we are just going into production on a new episode about North Shore roast beef. So if people have thoughts on that sandwich in particular, or spots where we have to visit for this story, please let me know. Just send me an email to curiositydesk@wgbh.org.
Sounds great. Well, thanks today to engineer Bill Piacitelli and Dave Goodman, the BPL technical and logistics crew, Maddie Geyer, Bill Francis, Sandra Lopez-Burke, Juan Jose Cadena, Chris Hanks, Pat Lally, and Olivia Corshio. Also thanks to the Lennox Hotel, the Newsfeed Cafe. Thank you to everyone who came down to see us here at the library. We love seeing you. By the way, we're going to start library on Wednesday, September 3rd as well. A new edition for The Culture Show. I'm Jared Bowen. Festoon yourself with a fan and have a cool, art-filled weekend.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
Where's Mary? Where is she? Where is she? She's just about to close up the library!
Now
now here's Natalie Stutzman and the Orfeo 55 with Andrea Falconeri's Pasquale.